the amount of people that you are dealing with within this situation, and within the first 24 to 48 hours, you are talking to a lot of people on the mobiles, on phones, to family, to press, everybody. And the biggest thing is to make sure you get the soldier's name correct. If it's John, make sure you always got to be conscious. I have heard people say, "Oh, I said this and I didn't mean to." They were okay about it, but it sort of put me off guard a little bit because they got the name wrong, or they've been dealing with somebody else and they've got the name wrong. But you must always be conscious and always think before you actually speak, because you can go on and take so much in, and they do want to accept you into their family, into their lives. They want you to do everything for them. They want you to make it all better for them. Everything needs to be, they want you to do it all for them, make everything all better. But you've always got to be one step ahead of them, as I say. Make sure you're conscious of what you're talking about. I have heard, people have got their names wrong on some occasions, and they say, "It's John." Well, actually, no, it's Paul. "Oh yeah, sorry." And straight away, you get that little bit of, not distrust in there, but you get a little bit of, "Oh, hang on, does this guy know what he's doing? Is he fully committed to looking after us, or is he looking after somebody else?" That's the only thing I'd say on that. You just make sure you know what you're going to say before you say it, and even if there's a bit of a pause, to remember what you're going to say, make sure you get it right. It is a lot of responsibility, because it's not a 5-minute job. You're not going in there 5 minutes later, it's all done and dusted. This takes time, and a lot of people underestimate the amount of time that you will put into being a visiting officer. From day one all the way through. And it can be years, it could be 2 years, and it's not from the start. The responsibility is to make sure that they're getting the information correct. Everything is right. The responsibility of making sure the funeral goes okay for them, making sure the repatriation is okay for them, and looking after them all the way through from the minute you're there till they are happy that there's no more you can do for them, but constantly still keeping in touch with them. It's very difficult for a visiting officer to take that all in, and some visiting officers like myself are married as well, so I have married things. As a married man, I have to look after my wife. I still have to put her as part of my family and not totally ignore her, because she's still part of my family. And when you're taking somebody else's family on and you're doing a lot of work, you are doing a lot of work, and the phone is going off, this, that and the other, but you've also got to make sure that you aren't ignoring your own personal family or your own personal issues and letting your wife crack on her own. I don't actually talk about it to my wife. I will talk to other people, like I'll see my unit padre. I know him quite well. I'll go have a coffee or go around his office, or they'll come around. We'll have a chat, or I'll go to a good friend in the Army Welfare Service and have a chat with them. I'd feel if I do it to my wife, she'd get involved in something that she doesn't understand. How could she understand? She knows what I'm doing, but she couldn't understand, and it's hard to put the pressure on her. So I'm not only would I be giving her my emotions, I'd also be giving the family's emotions onto her, and I wouldn't do that. Yeah, she looks after me. There's times where, we've gone out for a meal after a funeral, and I've just had to get up from the table and just look, I need to go home, and we've left the table and just walked straight out, because the emotions that I'm going through. But it's not quizzed or asked. She understands, and we just get home. But I'd never put anything on to her in that emotion side of life. The hardest thing for me throughout the whole issue is two things. Is one, obviously, trying to take in the grief and the understanding and the pain that family is going through. They don't know you from Adam, never seen you before, and there's like, I'm trying to help you through this, and just seeing the pain in their eyes, not physical, but the mental pain that they're going through, was a big thing for me, actually, because I've never been through it myself. And the second one was, sort of the repatriation of that soldier to come back, because again, I knew both soldiers, and at the repatriation, you've got the family there, the planes coming in, and even though I knew the soldiers myself, I had to look after that family as well. So you have to be very professional and not take on your emotions whilst you're with the family, because at the end of the day, that family comes first. My emotions come last compared to that family, and it is just making sure that family are okay, they're happy with what's going on. Obviously not happy, but they understand what is going on, and you're there to protect them and to look after them, even though you're going through, well, even though I was going through the same emotions when I saw both mates come off the same plane. It was very difficult for me, but also difficult for the family to see theirs come off, and that was the hardest thing for me. A couple of bits of advice I've given to anybody who's going to take on this role is don't underestimate the amount of work and the amount of time you'll be spending with that family. You know, this is the family, and you've got to work with them at their pace. Also, you've also got to be a little bit forceful in some things where you need to get answers because of the time scale of getting possibly the soldiers home from where they are. So you must go with the family, but sometimes you need to throw a little bit of authority in there to get you what you want, because they won't understand what is needed because they're still going through their grief. And fend everybody off. You will get lots and lots of phone calls within the first 12 to 24 hours from all different types of agencies throughout the military and civilian agencies. You must fend them off and deal with them when you feel that the family are ready to deal with them, because there's a lot to do in the first initial stage. Once the loved one is home, either through repatriation or any other situation, then you can start dealing with the other agencies. And I always used to do it as taking one hurdle at the time. You know, he's been told, now let's get him home. Once we got him home, we can then look at what else we can do. But between that time and him coming home, there's a lot to do, but you must be quite forceful sometimes, saying you do need this information, you do need that information, but just fend everybody off whilst you're trying to look after that family at their own pace, because that's how I worked, and it worked quite well, and the family appreciated that it wasn't a rush job. They appreciated they got all the answers that they wanted, but they also understood that there was things that I had to get and the information I needed to make sure that everything went smoothly for them and the family and their loved one.